Both?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I would do, and let me tell you why people screw this up. Again, remember I told you you're all in lead generating? Well, when you study lead generating, there's a lot of interesting nuances to it, but the most important nuance is literally timeliness. A lead is hot when it's hot. The longer you wait to go back to them, the more two things have happened. Three things. Number one, they found an alternative because they're not waiting for you like an ostrich. Number two, they've tried out something in that and they've failed, and they've decided that it's not as much lucrative hope in that area, whether it's money making or arthritis relief. Or number three, they've had some other beneficial or deteriorating activity in their life that diverted them from even being interested. So you have to proverbially strike while the iron is hot. To say, I'm going to do this someday, is really a disservice to yourself and to them, because by the time you get around to it, they'll be cold. So you got to start with saying, okay, my goal is to bring people in to buy my book. If they don't buy my book, to get them to at least get on my list. If they get on my list, to get my email. After they buy my book, I want to be able to offer them a series of logical, beneficial, expanded products or services. I want to create those, but right now I don't have them, and it might take me a year. And if I wait that long, all those leads will be fallow. So instead, what I'm going to do is go online and look up a lot of quality people who I'm going to put through a due diligence and make sure that their stuff really works and that they're really honorable. And I'm going to make a deal with them, at least temporarily, until I can make enough money to either get someone to help me create the back ends or permanently use theirs. So I've got an integrated strategy, because I know it costs me a lot of money to get someone to raise their hand for my $15 or $20 book, and it's going to be expensive. It might cost me 100% of that $15 to get the sale. And if I limit my business to just that, I might do a lot of good, but not being able to do more than just a very, very noble altruistic hobby. But if I add to it a series of back ends where I take people progressively along, number one, I'll make a bigger difference in their life because I'll do what Bob is trying to do for you. I'll move them to action. And number two, I'll make a lot more money for myself, which will let me expend a lot more money reaching a lot more people with my book and really sustaining and perpetuating the process. Does that make sense?
So what's the first step?
Well, the first step is to figure out the back. You already have the book written. Okay, there's two parallel universes. First step is because writing your own copy, unless you're brilliant, is going to be an arduous process, and you're probably going to be at best mediocre at it. So it's go to Amazon and start building that. And if you've got the money, what I would do is have someone else build that for you, because your concurrent, your parallel goal is to start searching Google or Yahoo or whoever you search and building relationships with other providers who have the back ends or other related products which will enhance and advance. Now let me stop. When I used to do, and God bless Bob, he'll introduce me to his people through emails, even though he teaches you marketing, because theoretically, and I hope I deliver, I take it to a bigger, broader, more actionable, advanced level. When I used to sell a lot of products, I don't do it anymore, I would sell both ends that I didn't reach. I had one guy who had a $5,000 program on processes, systems, strategies, and key linear stuff that I didn't teach. And I had Jay Levinson, who was very tactical because I was more strategic. Because I thought those filled voids that I didn't. And I did, gloriously profit very handsomely, but it wasn't the reason I did them initially. It was because they filled voids in the pipeline that gave a greater dimension of outcome to, am I being clear? Okay, so your job is to first of all, is to find who these guys are.
Jay Levinson is the guy who wrote Guerrilla Marketing.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he's a tactical guy. He sells more tactical, short-term, static things, but they can make you money. So it's like we have a program, I was telling Bob, we have a program we're doing called Power to Profit right now, and all it is for all these people who can't afford to be strategic because they don't have staff, they don't have any time, they don't have any money, and just to get them short-term breakthroughs. Well, you bring all the different things together because your job is to step back, and there's something called, I'm giving you a lot of stuff here, I hope it's not too confusing, the continuum of life. You try to figure all the progressive things that the person you're trying to reach and help is, will, has, and most probably will continue to go through. So the first thing is they're frustrated. They're not making money. Their lifestyle is suffering. Their marriage or romance might be suffering. Their self-esteem is suffering. Their fulfillment is suffering. Their future is onerous. The odds of them ever being financially independent, unless, and you think of all the other things that are related to that, because once you bring them in, there's a lot, and then there's a lot of paths to, when I say prosperity, I don't necessarily always mean financial, because wealth is denominated in many different ways, psychic, financial, etc. And you make a list before you ever go randomly and promiscuously out on the search engine. You make a list of all the categories. Does that make sense?
All the things that the people with shame are going to have in their life when they get rid of shame.
That you can help them. And not that you don't have to bear the burden and be Atlas. Other people have already done it. And there are educational, there are training alternatives, there's psychological, there's self-image, there's skills training, there is money making, there are relationship building. All those are factors, aren't they? All of those are back ends. When I went to Tony Robbins' list to promote my business growth activities, he thought I was crazy. And I said, I'm very smart. A few people come to you to make money, but most of them come to you because they want a better relationship. They want better health. They've made money now, and they realize there's a void in their life. And 10% of his people that came for that were that. And I understand very clearly how to take a deep breath, isolate and identify that continuum of life. Now you want to return, because I don't want to confuse them.
Well, let's look at shame. Let's see what we got here.
Okay.
Google shame.
Can you
Interface hollow shame. Keep rolling down there. Shame. There's all kinds of positive shames and negative shames. Gay shame, dirty shame.
You can look at self-esteem. Might be an easier one.
Well, self-esteem is the thing you're trying to find.
Yeah.
A shame would be a person who doesn't have
that's
it.
great, but look at all these. How many searches? Do they still list the number of?
11,300,000.
So you think you can find some either lists or products or people?
It's all they already have. They already have the databases.
And by the way,
all your customers are right there.
I mean, or joint ventures.
Do self-esteem now, Phil. Google it, self-esteem.
I mean, so my message to everybody, in case I don't say it again, is that it's not as hard as you make it. It's much easier. Most people work 1,000,000 times harder and accept a fraction of the result because they approach it in the traditional mindset. And what I call the Indiana Jones School of Business. Do you remember the first Indiana Jones movie, all those that aren't too young, where he was he was somewhere like in Turkey, and he was in a bazaar, and he was being chased by the bad guys, and he escaped only to go down a dead-end alley, and there was that 7.5-foot giant twirling all those swords, and for a pensive minute, everybody thought it was a goner, and after about a minute, he thought, screw that, and went pow. Well, that's sort of the metaphor that I hope I stand for. You don't have to do it. I mean, everybody else does it the old way. I mean, Bob knows me. You don't have to do that. You don't need a staff. You don't need money. You need ingenuity. Nobody in life, well, most people you're competing against, they don't have 100 times your capital. They don't have 100 times more hours in the day. They don't have 100 times the intellect. Your biggest asset is change the marketing approach you use and the strategy you follow, and make everything you do strategic, and use other people's opportunities, other people's assets, other people's activities, other people's resources. Because in a funny way, they need it more than you do. They already spent it. They just know when it's verbalized, hey, don't you want to get a return on that investment? It's just dormant. Don't you want to help them more? And again, I gave you a very rough explanation, but that explanation refined will work in about 80% of the time.
99% of the businesses are out there right now are break even. They have spent all this money to find all these customers, and they don't have a clue how to make a profit from them. They are break even. Only 1%, 1.5% of the businesses today gross over $1 million. Of all the businesses that are on that line, less than 1% of them will take in over $1 million.
And I'm going to challenge these on this people. I mean, you may not think you're going to make a lot of money, but you may it's like I mean, everyone thinks about affiliate programs. And there's nothing wrong with affiliate programs, but they're pretty static, and they're depending on visitors to a website. There's so many more proactive ways. Most people don't go and do things to their email list. Most people don't do add-ons to their sales transaction. Most people don't try to give them something for the people that are moving out and not buying other than, go to them and think about that. But when you think about this cycle of life and your question you ask, your job, and this is where it gets a little metaphysical, you're a creator of greater value for other people. And there's two very rich dimensions to that. First is the market you serve. And the other are all the other business owners who accept a lesser payoff and outcome from their effort. And that's two very parallel tracks you're on. I don't want to be confusing, but...
No, you're not.
Okay, so
No.
does this make sense to you?
Okay,
Yeah.
so she's got a, this is her, this is you.
You got a strategy now, and it's a lifetime strategy. Oh, I'm sorry, Bob, I hate to do this. One other point that I mentally made when I was upstairs that I didn't. I got to make.
Okay, make it. I'll be getting ready up here.
Okay. Remember I told you that you're all lead generators, even if somebody pays $39 or $5,000. We get people to pay $5,000. When we do $15,000 training programs, which we do 15, 20, 25, about once a year, we'll get 40 people, 50 people. 6 of them will become $120,000 clients. But it's a progression. It's a concentric circle. Years ago, we were talking about this investment firm that I helped. We were selling rare coins, collector coins. I created for them an introductory offer that was $19. And do I have 2 minutes to go
Yeah,
through?
sure.
It was a killer copy point. There was a lot of people promoting coins, and everyone was apprehensive. I always try to figure out what's the fear and how to turn the... You know what? Anybody know martial arts? Whoever studied jujitsu? Anybody? What's the key to jujitsu? Pardon? But isn't it using your opponent's force to your advantage? Okay, so the key is to use negatives to your advantage, and most people don't realize that. Negatives are positives. So we were trying to figure out why people wouldn't buy coins. And they wouldn't buy coins because they were afraid of making a mistake, they didn't understand them, they didn't get it. So we created an offer where we had 2 rare coins, 2 Morgan silver dollars as I regard, that would normally sell for about $50 that cost us $21 that we sold for $19. We sold it for a $2 loss, and there's a reason to this. We ran ads saying so many people out there are promoting rare coins, but if you're like the people we know, you don't want to just dissipate money. You don't want to make a mistake. So we want to introduce you to rare coins in the safest way possible. We want to give you a chance to own 2 majestic rare coins and see for yourself firsthand when they're in your hand why all the excitement, the mystique, the history, the glory, what it is that makes people so excited about owning precious metals that have a history and lineage to it. We also want to give you a bunch of reports that give you a firsthand explanation, generally about the case for owning coins, but also in their own words tell you what a bunch of respected experts say, including 3 experts who think it's stupid, because we wanted balance. Then, if after reading it, you feel like rare coin investing is right for you, we want to spend 10 or 15 minutes going through your issues, giving you the case, and working through with you a potential strategy. But if you are unhappy and you feel uncomfortable, we don't want your experience to be negative. So if you send the 2 coins back to us that you paid $19 for, we'll give you back $21, which is what it really cost us, because that's what it would cost to replace it. Because we want you to be able to say, even if you never buy them again, that your first investment in rare coins was a profitable one. Now that was the strategy, but that was only the first strategy. Our strategy was that I had analyzed backwards what I'll call the concentric circles. And I had looked at what the dynamics, what the historic buying trend was for every blank, for every 10 or 100 people that bought first time, how many bought a second time, how many bought a third time, and what their average worst case units were. Here's what happened. I sold 60,000 people in about 6 months a $19 set of coins. We lost a little bit on them. of the 60,000 people, and I've written this before, I may be off because I have so many stories I don't remember, but the essence is the same. About 20,000 bought $5,000 worth of coins for us that we made 20% on. You do the math. Of the 20,000 people that bought $5,000, about 10 bought $25,000 more. Of the 10,000, about 5 bought $50,000, and of the 5, about 1,000 bought $100,000. But then, and this is the point I was going to make because I'm attention deficit, of the approximate 35,000 that didn't buy, instead of saying, screw you, get out of our life, we mounted what I teach everyone to do, which is sequential, ongoing marketing, which is like a positive Chinese laundry or Chinese water torture. And we kept writing them a sequence of letters, each letter addressing a different psychological or fear or desire area, like a hot button. And we got 7,000 more of them to come into the fold and go back through the process later. And all told, I think we made, I remember, like $40 million by losing $2, but by understanding what I was going to make, sequential marketing. We did a seminar 3 years ago. I can tell this story with pride because I didn't write the copy. We did a letter announcing it to 20,000 people on my list, and we got not one response. Everyone was just devastated, but I said, let's try an experiment because we're already so invested in it. We have created the methodology and the process. We sent out 26 additional communications over the next 5 months. We got the email list of the same people. Each effort either advanced the premise from a different point of view or hit a different hot button, a different interest, or gave a free, please turn that off. I'm attention deficit, and it diverts my mind. I have to start all over on the first thing I said when I came here. It's like Groundhog Day. That wouldn't be fun. It was funnier in my mind than it came out. But we sent 25 sequential communications. Of those 25, half were just exploring and expanding different areas of impact or importance, hot buttons, different ways of doing it. I want to make another point. I'm sorry, but I got to make some really powerful points about it. And the other half gave free samples. We ended up making $6 million with one salesperson because it just advanced people forward, because people aren't always ready to buy this moment. Think about your own lives. How many people in this room, either in your business or in your personal life, have something important you want, need, and have promised yourself to do that you haven't done yet? Whether it's roof your house or join a gym or trade in your car or get your oil changed. That if somebody who you trusted with your best interest at heart continuously, gently, nobly, but benevolently harassed and harangued you until submission, you would really appreciate, could it get you to do what you knew you needed to do? So the key that I'm going to tell you is part of your strategy has got to be sequential marketing. Passive, tactical, reactive marketing is dumb, because when you go forward and continuously communicate for life, now remember, I'm bringing fast forward that concept of polarization. If you are grounded in what I call the strategy of preeminence, and you're committed to the best outcome for them, and you're establishing yourself in terms of service as their most trusted advisor, and you're communicating with them because you really believe in your heart of hearts that the various products, services, or the product or service they'd originally inquired about but not purchased is really going to make a big difference in their life, you're going to polarize. Some portion of them who don't get it are going to delete or send you a letter and say stop, and that's okay. But the bulk of them are going to appreciate, they're going to continuously evaluate, they're going to see another facet, another kaleidoscopic dimension to your product or of importance to them. And each time you do it, you're going to get a new group that responds. Bob emails his list constantly, and each time you do it because it doesn't work? How many people here subscribe to any publication? Did you ever unintentionally let it lapse? Not because you wanted to, you just forgot about it? Do they just drop you and never call it? They don't write you or call you 7 or 12 or 24 times? Very sophisticated marketers, they do what you got to do, which is analyze and measure. They know that every time they communicate, a certain number of people, that's all point. Please turn them off. It really does. It disrupts me terribly. A certain number of people are going to profitably come through. So what I was going to say in my very protracted example is part of your strategy. You are going to be strategic now. You're going to start with the end in mind. And the end doesn't mean when you die. It means where you're trying to get these to, a big long-term game plan. And unless you have that game plan, everything else you do is going to be erratic, episodic, tactical, and it's going to give you a fraction of the long-term payoff, the leverage you could get. Now, am I confusing? Because I don't mean to be.
In other words, you're not just trying to sell a book. You know, a book about let's go to college.
You're a lead generator to find people you
That's a
can
lead
help
generator.
in many ways. So you got to expand the umbrella.
So what is your back end? What are you going to sell? Well, okay, got the book and they went to college. Now what? What are you going to sell them that's worth $1,000?
And you shouldn't discriminate because some of them are going to be sophisticated, some are going to be technically oriented, some of them are going to be happy if they can learn how to make $25 an hour, some are going to try to make $5,000 a week, some are going to be happy if they can just feel good about being who they are. And your job is to help all of them be the best they can. And if you discriminate and say, well, I only want to help the ones that don't want to go forward and get training, or the ones that don't want to, then you're limiting and restricting and impeding your chance to impact so many more lives. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I just say one thing? I got a huge aha in all these areas, is that I learned a big lesson in skiing, and I could even open it up to sports, like learning through sports. Like I never even thought of that.
Well, great.
You know, I mean, I'm just
Does
like
this
my
make
mind
sen-
is
does this
going.
make sense?
Yes.
Was shame
yes.
your issue?
Yes.
When did you learn you had shame?
I think especially in the 11th or 12th grade, I became aware of.
And it was debilitating for you?
Very
It cost you
debilitating.
millions and millions and millions of dollars?
Yes.
It has, and you've decided that you want to have people go to college so that they'll help overcome their shame by having a college degree?
No, I'm working at them feeling great without going to college.
Without going to college.
Right.
But you should expand your, now this is where I challenge every one of you, because you got a higher, what I call causal value. That's great, but if now that you've found all those people who you want to convince it's not a problem, you can then, once you salve, abate that problem, then you can say, but there is nothing wrong with raising the bar, and there are a lot of neat ways you can take your inherent intelligence, your motivation, your outgoing personality, and translate that to a higher degree of success, of fulfillment, and yes, of economic gain. And you're just taking those amongst those who don't deserve to just be dropped and helping them along the path. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I also thought I could have Bob and Mark's book. You know, I mean, it's like my mind, since
And
you
that's
started
great, but
talking, is going
and
crazy.
again, and that is great because it's a great book. But my job today is to smash that rigid
Got it.
limitation.
So here you are. You Googled them.
Yeah.
You Googled all the people who have shame-related products or self-esteem-related products. How many of them are there? How many people on their databases are there?
And you can look at it so many ways.
Millions and millions and millions of names right now, this very instant.
Then you can also
Most
look
of them don't know what to do with those names. They're already collected. They're sitting there waiting for you. Here is you. You don't even need a book.
But don't
Stop
forget,
writing your book.
You can access them other ways. There are people looking for they're looking for business opportunities.
Right.
They're looking for advanced training. They're looking for technical training. They're looking to join network marketing. I mean, these are different doors the same people are coming through. That's where you got to stop, take a deep breath, and don't just go, half-cocked into one direction. Get strategic. Figure out who you're going to bring in, how many different pillars you can reach them, funneling them into one. And by the way, something else I was going to say, and Bob and I are great examples. Research. I'm just giving you a scientific research. For your business, the more you can build it on your personality, they can relate to because you show I feel what you feel. I've been where you've been. It's like when I started, I don't have any education. I mean, I'm very proud. I've taught 600 MBAs and like 300 PhDs, and I finished high school, but that was it. But it was never a problem because I didn't have time to.
Oh, darn it. I thought you had a college degree. I don't respect you anymore.
But the point is, you can help so many different people in so many ways. And you got to see yourself as a lead generator, a conduit, a membrane through which all kinds of life changes, improvements, enhancements can, should, and must pass.
Jay.
I hope I'm not being too abstract.
Yes, you are.
I'm sorry.
These people have nothing. They don't have a product that they can sell. They can't find a person to sell it to. That's them right there in the middle.
Okay. What do you mean?
How would they make $1 million in the next 101 days with nothing?
Key. Oh, it's really simple. It's so simple. I'm serious. You do what I've just said, but you do it reverse engineer. You find a couple of huge markets. You go and you pick up products and you control them, and then you just set up deals like that with as many other people as you can. Because, see, the beauty of life is most people.
That went over their heads.
Okay, so let's say you do a search. You find a couple of categories.
Find me one.
Okay, we already said weight loss,
Fine.
arthritis, self-improvement.
Huge market. Weight loss. Stick there.
Okay.
Weight loss.
Okay, so you go through the search engines. You find a bunch of people. See, you do what I call, let me give you another. You do it's the Tom Sawyer School of Business.
Ah, there you go.
You're the Tom Sawyer School of Business. You're the middle person. It's like you're the middleman or woman who control the deals. You install yourself in the toll position. You orchestrate the whole thing. You find people who have products or services, and you find other people who have markets and lists or access. You get control of the products or services where you keep the lion's share. You make deals just as if you own them, but you don't have to worry. It saves you the year of creating it. It saves you the $10,000 or $20,000. You take advantage of somebody. You leverage off somebody else, and you just put people together.
Give me an example of someone who has done that. And give me another example of someone you taught. You started with nothing and kind of got it, and went out and found a product that they didn't own.
Okay, I'll give you three
joint
examples.
ventured it with someone over here who had a database that they owned, but the person in the middle made money from that. Give me an example of that.
He's a different story. But that's a cool story, but it's not appropriate. I'll start with a big company. I'll take a little one. I had a guy one time who learned this from me, came to a program. He went to a company that had a piece of software that was really cool, but they didn't have a sales force, and they had no access. He had worked for Siemens in Germany, for IBM. He went to them, and he put a deal together where they made this a value-added add-on. He went to the company. He negotiated 40% interest in ownership plus 25% of the profit, and he made $8 million a year starting in about 6 months. That's a true story.
Not having a product at all.
No.
Just
he
finding
found
someone
he was a middleman, branchman. Nightingale Conant went to, I taught him this. Nightingale Conant had all these $39 and $59 products, but didn't have any other source other than direct mail. Went to Fred Pryor's seminars and said,